Good morning and welcome. Pick the Radio News Hour. Joe and Jason on this Thursday, and I hope it finds you well out there. As well, it's going to be a scorcher. Summer's here. I guess Brittany just told me it's the first day of summer officially. Unofficially, it felt like the first day of summer for unfortunately quite a while here in Arizona. But hey, we're used to it. This is when everybody tries to get out of town, and you know what? Can't really blame them for that. We've got a big rally in gold and silver, economic data coming in, jobless claims. I told you, get ready, get prepared. This thing is getting bigger and bigger and bigger. What thing? This debt bubble thing. Yesterday, I know some of you were off and maybe you didn't catch it. Big problems in the Japanese banking industry. One of Japan's largest bank going to suffer billions of dollars in losses, something like $7 to $8 billion in losses. They're going to be unloading $63 billion worth of treasuries between now and March of next year. And then today, word out of France. Now remember, France, they call for snap elections with Macron over there. You know, he's been pounding the war drum, hasn't he? I mean, if you think about who's the one, I guess, Western leader that's been pounding the war drum the most, it would probably be him. Then they had to cancel a debt auction after he called for the snap elections. And then, Jason, we learned today the debt problems in France. You know, they must have done what the CBO did yesterday. I don't know if you guys caught that too. The CBO yesterday said, I guess we were wrong. You know, they were trying to convince everyone the debt was going to go down this year. Yeah, I don't know how they do math, right? You know what? Maybe it's that new math they're teaching in school where, hey, it doesn't matter if you get the right answer, right? It's all about the process, right? It's about the process. Well, let me tell you this. The right answer matters the most. I don't care about what type of process or what you consider logical thinking or whatever it may be. The right answer matters the most. Huge increase. I've never seen a $400 billion. How can you miss by $400 billion? Here's the problem. Even the number they got now is wrong. They're probably off by another $400 billion, but that's okay. I mean, who cares? What's debt amongst friends? But now the situation in France, Jason, got very ugly, and there's even I don't think it's going to happen, but they're actually talking about maybe having to kick them out of the EU because their deficits are so big.
Yeah, I don't know if that'll happen, Joe. Do you think that could actually happen? Wasn't Greece in such bad position years ago? Why didn't they kick Greece out? But maybe, I guess we are. It's a different year, it's a different time. That financially strapped countries might now need to be sectioned out so that you could save the whole. But I would say if you kick France out, don't you think it would be just like to be these banks that are in jeopardy one by one? They get worse and worse as you kick them out.
Well, and again, remember what they did in Greece. Let's not forget. Remember? You couldn't get money out of your bank. Couldn't do it. You go to the bank, hey, I want to withdraw all my money. No, thanks. Sorry. How would you like $20? Yeah, we can give you $20. That's how it goes. But I want to get my money out. You guys may go, no, sorry, not doing it. And again, I stress this to you because so many people, they just don't want to believe what the banking laws really are. And I get it. Who wants to believe it? People think it's their money. Hey, you know what? I'll give you a great idea. Go out to All American Gold today. We've got an article about these old people that have, it's amazing how many people, the amount of money that they're keeping in their bank accounts. They just don't get it. And they're getting scammed. They get huge wires sent out of the country, and they're acting like it's their money. And they're I want to. You gotta make it right. You shouldn't have allowed this to happen. And you need to help me get my money back. And guess what the bank says? Nah, we're not doing that. Sorry for you, right? And by the way, it's not your money. Keep trying to tell people that, and they hate it. They get mad. Don't they, Jason? They get mad when we tell them, when you deposit that money into the bank, it's not yours. It's the bank's. You're an unsecured creditor. Now, granted, they make it feel good. Oh, well, we got this contract, where you clicked OK and you initialed here and you signed there. We got this contract. Right? Guess what that contract really says? You know what it says? The money's not yours. You're an unsecured creditor. By the way, you can't sue us. Right? You've gotta go through our process. You can't class action. If we screw you over and a million other depositors, you can't class action lawsuit. You can't. It's amazing what it is, that the power that they have. And Jason wants to get in on this. We'll get on it on the other side of the break. We got a big show lined up for you today. We've been warning you and warning you and warning you. I'm going to tell you right now, we took a big step forward in the last 48 hours. 800-951-0592, Joe and Jason, Patriot Radio News Hour on this Thursday. A lot to talk about, man. The Dow is up, right, because it's good news. Good news, rate cuts everywhere. The ECB held rates steady, or I'm sorry, not the ECB, my bad. Bank of England held rates steady, but said, we're cutting in August. So get ready for that. The Swiss National Bank, they cut this week. Rate cuts are on the way. The Dow up 80. The S&P's up 10. The NASDAQ's up 28. And again, ready? NVIDIA, Apple, right? Couple of stocks doing all the work. 10-year note, 426. Crude oil up 74 more cents, 82 and change. So here comes crude back. Gold is on the move here, up $35, $23.65. Silver's up $1. $30.70. And again, I'm just going to tell you this right now. I hope you're paying attention. I do. And I know you're like, but Joe, the stocks are at record highs. It's okay. Everything's great. That's exactly where stocks were in 2007. Record highs. August of 2007, Ben Bernanke was talking about raising rates. And next thing you know, less than 90 days later, well, not 90 days later, Lehman Brothers goes out of business. Right? And another, 100 days, 120 days after that, Bear Stearns goes out of business. That's how fast it goes. Listen, a lot of you did a good job and got diversified during the financial crisis. That was great. Good job. Right? Because a lot of people slept through the dot-com crash and didn't do anything. This one's going to be worse. Why do I say that? How do you know it's going to be? They're talking soft landing. Well, let me tell you how I know. The last time, what was the debt? 7 trillion, 6 trillion, 7 trillion, something like that. What are we going to be? I don't know, 40 trillion? And that's not counting the Fed. If you count the Fed, probably 47, 50, maybe even 50 trillion. It's possible. Depends how long it goes until it happens. That's how I know it's going to be worse. Right? When you get one of the largest banks in the world come out yesterday and say, oh, by the way, $8 billion loss, and we need to dump a bunch of assets. Yeah, that's a problem. Now France, the second largest economy in Europe. Yeah, we're going to talk about that next. Just remember, you don't own that money in the bank. Keep trying to tell you that. And now they've made the rules worse with Dodd-Frank. And a lot of people are going to be finding it out the hard way. Get more diversified. A great opportunity with our buddies over at YRefi. Right up to 10.25% fixed rate of return. Are you kidding me? I'll take that all day. Especially because they can't play the debt bubble game again, I don't think. Maybe they can. We go 100 trillion, 200 trillion. Why not? I guess maybe they could. I guess they could. But it's not correlated to Wall Street. That's the best part. Right? Get another layer of protection. You got to have that gold and silver, but get another layer of protection. You know what I love about them? You can use it as income. You can turn your income on. You can turn it off. You can compound it. You can do whatever you want. There's no fees. If you need your money back early, they don't attack your principal. These guys, they're kind of like Patriot. They don't play any games. They got to have $50,000 or more, but if you do, you got too much money sitting in that bank account. Maybe, you know what? Here's the other part that makes it a no-brainer. You can use an existing IRA. You got $1 million in your IRA. Get YRefi a call. 888-YRefi24 or check them out online, investYRefi.com. But Jason, before we get to France, we're talking about banking. People don't really know the law. And it's so funny. They go, I asked the teller at the bank, and she looked at me like I was crazy. You know why? Because they're not educated. There's a few bank managers. I know the bank manager at the bank I go to, I know he knows. Because we've had the talk. He knows. It's not their money, Jason. And this is the problem. The government now is going to let you know it's not your money when they come in with the bail-ins the next time around.
Yeah, and you were mentioning that most people just don't believe it if you tell them, and because they don't, they haven't taken the time to learn this. And it's funny because with technology and modernization, I think people have more of a feeling of ownership of their accounts, because instead of going to the bank and talking to their bank, or maybe calling on the phone and trying to get some verification of funds or something like that nature, they go on a keyboard and they have to put in a password and an email. They log into their site. They're checking all of their savings accounts and checking accounts, and it's like their own world, right? How could that belong to somebody else, right? When you actually went into the bank, you were actually facing someone and you had to discuss your accounts. It was yours, but the bank was you knew that they were holding it, and so there was more of a professional situation. Now, with digital, I think people have more. They feel they own this money because they have more access in their minds, right, Joe? And so it's with like surveillance and everything else, and the digital currency that's coming. I guess they make people feel like they have more choice than they really have by just showing them. Oh, yeah, look, you get to look at it. It's yours. You get to see it 24 hours a day. You get to look at it.
It's got your name on it, right? We emailed your bank statement. It's got your name on it, and look at all the money in there. Yeah, see, it's yours. No, it's not. And Greece is a great example. I'm so glad you brought up Greece. What a great example. That's how banking works. And you can say, people, that was Greece. That's not America. No, folks. I hate to tell you this. Banking law, because, God, they're so good. They're so great. I mean, I rail against these central bankers because what a ridiculous system we have. Honestly, I don't even know how they tricked us into doing it 100+ years ago. Well, I do know they loaded the Congress. That's how they did it. But neither here nor there. This is universal. We actually our banking laws really came from England. Just so you know. In case anybody doesn't know that. Banking law is universal. Do you know when they decided the money wasn't yours? It was like in the 1400s. There's a big case in England in the 1400s that decided this. This is right. I love it. Some here, I've never show me the law in Congress where it says that. It's not a congressional law. It's not a federal law. It's banking law. And I call it law of banking rules anyway. And all the courts uphold it. It's been upheld I don't know how many times. How about Social Security? All of you people out there that think Social Security, they've got an account. I've got an account that's got my name on it. Right? And on every paycheck, FICA takes that money out. That's mine. Oh, no. Matter of fact, the Supreme Court of the United States, back in the early 1960s, ruled Social Security is not property rights. The government's under no obligation to pay anything. It is a tax, period. End of discussion. And by the way, it was unanimous. 9-0. Those are the real rules. And Dodd-Frank, they got really smart. Because, listen, we all got mad. I know I got mad. Jason, didn't you get mad when we bailed out the banks? I was mad. They should have went under. Of course, we probably wouldn't have liked that, right? Because then we were going to find out that FDIC insurance was a bunch of crap. But now, guess what? They said, okay, we get it. We hear you. We're to do bail-ins now. What does that mean? Well, we're to follow the law now. And the law is you're an unsecured creditor in the bank. The bank goes under, you get paid last. Not first, last. But don't worry. They'll give you some IOUs. They will. Anything over $250, they're taking it. It's gone, and it's not coming back. But for those of you that have over that or near that, don't plan on keeping it all. Plan on getting a little, hey, we're sorry. But, you've had $200,000 in this bank account for like 10 years. I mean, you really don't need it. Right? We're going to give you access to, and they'll pick a number, 10 grand, 20 grand, whatever it is. But that other money, we're just borrowing it. We're borrowing it. And here's a piece of paper. Here's a little IOU. And we're going to give you stock in this bank. Now, you can't do anything with it. But at some point in the future, maybe you'll be able to sell that stock back to us and we can give you your money back, maybe. And we'll let you know when.
They did that during the Depression. They did that during the Depression, especially the insurance companies. The insurance companies couldn't pay, but they said, we'll eventually get that money back and we'll pay it, just not when you need it. And so this has already happened, The funny thing is, Joe, is bank runs would be going on for physical cash this time around, but there's just not cash there, and I think people are starting to understand that. I think the bank run this time is physically people going after gold and silver. That's what the bank run will be, and I think the bank run is being well controlled this time around because look at how many months and years the central banks and large entities are able to hoard this stuff before things go wrong, Joe. They've really controlled the narrative so that those that need it most are getting it at the cheapest price.
Runaway spending with policies associated to what France has been doing and, of course, this new snap election could lead to France's placement on what the EU calls an excessive deficit plan. EU member states get put on these plans when the European Commission, the European Union's executive branch, finds a country has violated the Stability and Growth Pact that requires the 27 EU members to have a budget deficit of no greater than 3% and a public debt to GDP ratio of 60% or lower. Now, you know where America is right now? Closing in on 10%. Not there yet, getting close. instead of 3%. And our debt to GDP, well, it's over 100%. Congratulations, right? This tells you the problem. Now, this is something that happened to Greece. The rules have not been enforced very strictly, right? In Greece's case, it got worse, and then they finally had to do it. But Jason, already France is sitting on the edge, right? France is now sitting, and when we remember the pigs, it was Portugal and Ireland. Who else was it? Portugal, Ireland, Greece, Spain, right? Greece and Spain, right? The pigs. France wasn't one of the pigs yet. Guess what? Yeah. It's the pigs plus the F pigs now. Patriot Radio News Hour. 800-951-0592. Patriot Radio News Hour. Joe and Jason here on this Thursday, and we're talking about all of the news that has been breaking. Started yesterday with one of the largest banks in Japan announcing massive losses and the need. And here's the thing: unrealized losses that need to be realized, and the need to dump $63 billion of treasuries, taking over a $7 billion loss. And then news breaking with France not to be outdone now. Italy, maybe even worse than France. This is the European Union's third largest economy. So the second largest and the third largest. They're saying vulnerabilities had been masked by massive ECB bond purchases that have come to an end to try to rein in inflation. So, again, they did what we were doing. Same thing. Let's cover it up. Right, we're going Big Daddy. You wet the bed? Let's just put some newspaper over it. You spilled the milk? Let's put some newspaper over it. You threw up? We'll put the newspaper over it, right? We'll pretend that it didn't happen. Well, guess what? All of those programs are over. Why? Well, because inflation was killing everybody. Now, serious questions as to how and what price the Italian government will be able to finance its very large borrowing needs in the period ahead. Jason, they're not talking about funding it next year or 2 years. They're talking right now. We've already told you what's happening to our debt. Look at what the CBO had to do yesterday. Whoops! Here's another $400 billion. That's what they're going to say in another 60 days. Here's another $300 billion. We know what happened with Greece. To give you an idea, give you perspective of how bad this really is. Both France and Italy, their economies are like 10 times the size of Greece. Jason, this is huge. I mean, really, when you start thinking about global, the biggest countries GDP-wise, when you take in France, Italy, and set us aside, but take Japan, right? So Japan, right now, they still may be number 4. But they may be number 5. I don't know if India's passed them yet. Pretty close, right? Let's call it a tie. France, though, they're the 7th largest economy, and Italy's like the 9th largest economy. I mean, when we talk about problems, people better wake up. Again, when we're talking about this debt bubble, it's a global thing. It is massive. We aren't the only people involved. And this is a situation where when this house of card, when it falls, I think everyone now can at least see, Now I get what Joe's talking about. Remember, I think 4,000 banks are going away. 4,000. Not 400, 4,000. The banking industry as we know it is going to go under a massive change. And guess who's left holding the bag to pay for it? It's the depositors. Sorry, I know you don't want to hear it. I know you don't want to believe it. God, how much better would it be? Come on, Joe. It's almost 4th of July. We're getting ready to go to San Diego. We're going to spend vacation on the beach, and I'm just going to drink a bunch of Mai Tais and margaritas and stick my head in the sand. You can do that. You can. It's not going to work out very well for you, but you can do that, Jason. People need to wake up and understand what's really happening here.
You know, with a digital currency, really, more than even the citizens, who's really at jeopardy is the banks. You know, the banks. When this is the Fed saying we don't need banks anymore. And I think anyone that has, well, and I think a lot of banks don't have intelligence, but any bank that has intelligence sees the writing on the wall. This becomes a new currency. People understand currencies replace other currencies. And what we could see very likely in your scenario of banks going away, Joe, is not only is the dollar weak because the digital currency is going to replace it just as much as BRICS or anything else might replace it. You know, BRICS might just be competition for the Fed coin. You know, what we might be seeing is a world war over who's going to have the reserve currency in this new technologically advanced society we're in. And, Joe, we're going to see some crazy things happen. And, yeah, banks are going to go away. And think about it. Why would you want to have your reserve currency? Let's just say you're some average country, one of those middle upper countries you were naming earlier, maybe a little lower on the list. Why would you be holding dollars if you figured out that there's going to be a digital currency by the central bank who runs the United States? Why would you have your money in with the United States Treasury when it's painfully obvious it's the Fed that runs the country? So if the Fed comes up with its own currency, why would you hold dollars? You're going to go to Fed currency, and man, this sort of thing is really going to be a rocky waters, right? The ocean's going to get some stormy waters going on. You better watch out, because when large entities are fighting over who gets to use their currencies, that can't be good for the average guy.
No, and a lot of these banks will go under. They'll use your money to pay for losses, and then they're just going to tell you, "Hey, don't worry. This new money's safe. This new money's safe." That's what they're probably going to do. Speaking of going to gold, you know what? Here's a country we haven't talked about: Thailand. Who? Thailand. On a massive gold buying spree. They've gone from 84 metric tons to 236 metric tons, and they just came out and said, hey, by the way, we're going to be buying a lot more gold. And guess what they did? They now are going to Enbridge. Enbridge. What's Enbridge? Remember we talked about that last week. That's the Bank of International Settlements payment system. Of course, the Thai baht, which has been heavily traded, along with the dollar, right there. They've been very dollar-centric. And making the move to Enbridge, Thailand, the UAE, right? We know China as well. Looks like, I don't know, call me crazy. Is this another country getting ready to go to BRICS? Sure looks like it, doesn't it? Patriot Radio News Hour. You better be your own central bank. We're going to give you another opportunity right after this. 800-951-0592. Buy all you can while you still can. Just that simple. Today, we've seen gold just flying this week. $20 gold pieces, $25. So you're going to save a little money here. Listen, gold's up $30 today. It was up, $10, $12 yesterday. We're back in talking about right near all-time record highs today. 2350 was a support level that gold busted through this morning. Silver, it just likes to skip 30 altogether, doesn't it? Went below 30, right? Remember, kind of held on there at 29. Now it's almost back to 30, up $1, right? 30.70 right now. But I'm just telling you, you got money in those banks. You got to have enough money to pay your bills. But, man, I would limit those. You got big dollar, man. Do what these banks are doing. So, in the Gold Observer, they're saying that what Thailand's doing now, they used to hold all of this in treasuries. All of their extra cash now appears to be going into gold instead. They become a member of Enbridge. That's the second country. China's a member now. There's 26 central banks that are now what they're calling observing members. 5 central banks official members, and the list seems to be growing. But they've been talking about there's another mystery gold buy. And I was thinking, well, it's probably China. China's probably just underreporting. But according to the Observer, they're saying that it's an open secret. It's an open secret that it's Saudi Arabia is the country that has been stockpiling gold and not reporting. The fact that it joined Enbridge with China and Thailand, those guys, Thailand's probably like the second largest gold buyer, maybe behind China. It's pretty close. But now they're saying that Saudi Arabia is the other big gold buyer, but Jason, they're just not disclosing that they're doing it.
There's kind of a habit of not disclosing things, right? But there's a whole lot of. Let's just go back to the Jekyll Island meeting. Let's not disclose this. In fact, let's just discuss what we're going to do, and let's make sure nobody really knows for sure, right, Joe? I said this earlier in the week. It's like make sure that when we get the numbers, it's these delayed numbers, these lagging numbers, right? What happened a month ago or 2 months ago? I'm amazed we even get on a Thursday like today, we get the jobs numbers that's up to that week, right, Joe? It's amazing that we get any numbers that are close to being on time. But it's hard to trust the information, Joe, because it seems like we are purposely, in the day and age, the information age, we are purposely given old information or even just false information.
Yeah, and again, it makes sense, right? We don't want you to know. Because then we're going to have to pay more, right? Yep. We don't want to pay more. It's already, $2,365. Right? We don't want to pay more. Here's bad news. Oil inventories, they were supposed to come out yesterday. Yesterday was the holiday. Down across the board, down. Department of Energy down 2.5 million barrels. Gasoline down over 2 million. Distillates down almost 2 million barrels. We reported crude oil is back above $82. Buy gas today. I'll just say that. Buy gas this weekend. Looks like gas prices are going to head back up here. Unfortunately, because that was the big reason why they were able to say, hey, inflation got a little better. Right, Jason? Because crude oil prices, got to remember, crude oil prices, they got into the low 70s. It's rallied $10 very quietly in the last 2 weeks. And by the way, also at the same time, Ukraine says 2 direct hits on major Russian oil refiners. So it looks like, Jason, here we go again, right? Just in time. Let's get the oil problem heated back up again.
Well, we've been watching and talking about these false shortages that seem to be just happening everywhere. Ships hitting bridges and wars expanding, shortages here and there. You couldn't do more to purposely create shortages that once again you start the idea of shortages months and years ahead. So then when whatever event happens and you have the shortages, then you got the guys in the news like, oh, wait a minute, look. 2 years ago, the war started, and then there was these shortages, and then a ship hit a bridge, and they have this whole story they can give you about how we should have seen it coming. We should have seen it coming, right, Joe? And then they build this to the moment of their choosing, and suddenly oil is $200 a barrel. I still remember 2 years ago. Remember those big firms? I placed those bets on $200 a barrel. I still in my mind. It's like you don't place massive bets on something like that unless you believe it's going to be there.
Yeah, well, man, isn't that the truth? 3 different cargo ships have been taking water or sunk this week. Now all of a sudden, here comes crude oil roaring back. Japan's in trouble. France is in trouble. Italy's in trouble. Listen, we're in trouble. That's just the reality. No amount of NVIDIA stock is going to save us. I wish it could, but it's not going to. I'm just going to tell you right now, I just got new pricing. Buy it today. You're going to see $2,600 gold come tomorrow. $25.25 on these 20s.
Wow.
Do it, because I'm going to tell you right now, this bubble, right? Boy, it's getting, when you're blowing that bubble and oh my God, if I one more breath and this thing's going to go bang. Yeah, we're getting really close to that one last breath. 800-951-0592. Jason and I, we're going to wrap up a Thursday right after this. 800-951-0592 and $20 gold pieces, $25.25 at 800-951-0592. And we've been really fortunate this summer because the premiums have come in, but it looks like that's over. Just looking at the price sheets this week. Jason, this pattern kind of holding true. Fridays tend to tell us what's going to happen the next week, right? We had a big Friday, last Friday, this week, another big rally here. We're looking, jobless, we didn't even talk about jobless claims. 238. So, didn't get to 240 again, but right next to that 240. So it looks like we've taken the next leg up now in these jobless claims. And so, remember for a while, just every week it's going to be 210. Well, now we're at like 240. So that's a significant jump here. We're going to have to continue to watch. But again, I don't know if it will start here. Is it going to start in Japan? Is it going to start in Europe? Now, France and Italy teetering on the brink. And think about who is going to buy all of the debt. Who's going to do it? And I think this is kind of the big underlying problem that the whole world is facing. And you see it in our treasury auctions. You see it. Listen, here's some things that we've got coming that are going to tell you that are going to drive gold prices here. Rate cuts coming. I don't know when. I still think it's September. The Treasury in August has to announce how much more debt we have to sell. And then, by the way, in that meeting, I anticipate saying, in 3 more months, we need to do it again. Right? These are things that are going to drive the gold price. And you know what? I think the chaos that is the U.S. elections, Jason, it will probably drive the price as well. People are going to be very uncertain as to what the future is going to look like.
Yeah, the future is hard to tell exactly what's going to happen. But, Joe, we've had a long history of seeing where it's come from. And we got over 100 years of just a slow march towards serfdom by the citizens. And there are things you can do to make your existence better and to make yourself a little more free. I mean, Joe, how many times have we said, how much freedom can you afford? Well, gold and silver is a great way to afford a little bit more freedom. Privacy, owning something of value that's outside of digital currencies, the banks you keep your money in. It's even more private than cash. I mean, how many times have you gone to go pay cash on something? Anybody that still uses cash is listening. they ask for your phone number, or do you have your membership card, at the grocery store. They want to know every single time you're spending something. They try to get cash linked to everything. So gold and silver, man, when you trade a little gold and silver, Joe, it's pretty private. You do business with a local, trade a little silver for some services. Great way to go.
800-951-0592. Don't leave that money in the bank, not for a second longer than you have to. God bless everybody. We still got Friday. We'll see what gold and silver do then. We'll talk again tomorrow.